Hey everybody, welcome back. Welcome back. It is another Sunday. And as usual, what I like to do before we start this conversation is to check my YouTube to make sure if anyone doesn't join us on a Sunday night, that it is here for people to go back and watch the replay. So I appreciate everyone who joins every Sunday. And I just want to also make sure too that the sound sounds good enough. As you guys know, I am still out of town, so I'm on a different device due to the other device not working correctly. So it is Sunday. Before we start this live stream and have this conversation about home buyers remorse and also about sellers delisting, I am going to do a check-in real quick in regards to the mortgage rates. And again, we are looking at Mortgage Daily News, and Mortgage Daily News is a generalization of the nationwide mortgages. They average those out, but also there are several overlays and underlays, however you guys want to say it, that go along. Sorry, let me get my headphones. That go along with getting these type of rates for your mortgage. So let's check in with that real quick. And we're just going to give you, I'm just going to give you those rates real quick for the market. Alrighty, let me see. And I'm putting my headphones on. Headphones real quick. So that way I can make sure the sounds okay. Sorry, y'all. I should have did this earlier. There we go. And then, hey, did it go? There we go. Hey, what's going on, Dad? All right, so before I don't know what's happening with this thing. All right, so sorry, my head. All right, so before we do this, let's check out these rates. So for an FHA, again, this is national rates. These are overlays, credit scores, debt to income ratio. A lot of things kind of possibly make up this rate. FHA 30-year fixed is a 5.86. 30-year jumbo is a 6.4. Conventional 30-year is 6.22. Conventional 15-year is a 5.78. ARM is at a 5.7, and the 30-year VA is at 5.88. All right, so we will get off of that, and then we'll head in real quick before we talk about this topic and look at the 10-year Treasury to see where they're currently at. If you guys are looking to possibly purchase or sell next year, the 10-year Treasury currently is at above 4, so it's at 4.032. So we want to get that to adjust down. All right, so let's get into this topic in regards to home buyer's remorse. So I don't know if anyone watching it now or watching the replay bought a home within the last couple of years, or has been in the home for a while now and had some type of remorse when you bought your home. And before we get into that topic too, also don't forget to like, subscribe, share, hit the like button, subscribe, and also share if possible. If this conversation makes sense to anyone that you know that is currently either having home buyer remorse or is a seller that has recently delisted their home. Hey, what's going on, David Matney? How you doing over there in Nebraska? Hopefully it's not snowing yet over there. Hopefully it's still good. But thanks for joining us today. All right, so let's talk about, I wanted to kind of bring this up, this whole home buyer remorse, because I've been seeing that this has been a thing that's been kind of trending on TikTok a little bit. Unfortunately, I can't, like I said, I can't share my screen on this particular device, but we'll just have a conversation. Let me know your thoughts. Again, if you are a recent home buyer, have you had this remorse? If you bought a home in the past, have you had a remorse after buying a home? Let me know in the comments if you're watching live. It has snowed and it is cold. Okay, so it's snowing and it's cold over there. All right, well, bundle up and stay warm. Put the boots on and the coats and the hats and the scarves. All right, so it says this particular article is from Kin, so it's KIN, and it says Gen Z homeowners are 20% more likely to have buyer's remorse than previous generations. So they're saying the recent generation, Gen Zers, they also talked about a little bit about millennials as far as having this home buyer remorse. It says the dream of home ownership is still a reality in America. So people still want to be able to obtain home ownership and have a house and everything. But the reality is more stressful than it used to be. It says over the last 20 years, the median home price has skyrocketed from $288,500 to $503,800. And according to a new study by Ken Insurance, the high cost of mortgages is the number one reason why Gen Zer homeowners are more likely to experience buyer remorse than millennials or Gen X. So they said a shocking 42% of Gen Z homeowners say they have some degree of home buyer's remorse. So 42% and 27% more than millennials or Gen Xers. However, that doesn't mean the two earlier generations haven't escaped unscathed. Nearly half of all homeowners in the study say owning a home has increased their stress levels. So that's why I wanted to have this conversation. If you guys had any type of buyer remorse, if you recently bought, if you bought years ago as a, whether you're a Gen Zer, whether you're a millennial, whether you're a Gen Xer, even if you're a baby boomer or silent generation, have you experienced that when you bought your home? Did you experience this type of remorse? If you are a realtor, because I know David is, if you have you heard any word from any of your clients feeling like they have some remorse in buying a home? It says key takeaways: 42% of Gen Z homeowners have experienced buyer remorse, so we already know about that. So we're going to skip down here. It says 48% of U.S. homeowners say owning a home has increased their stress. And so we'll break it down why people have this remorse and what type of stress it has increased. As we all know, buying a house, it is not for the faint of heart. However, it could be a great investment if it's something that you want to do in the future, right? It can help secure other generations down the line in regards to wealth building with real estate, okay? It says 51% didn't include the cost of home insurance when budgeting their housing costs. It says 39% spent a third or more of their income on housing. So this is like some of the stress levels in regards to this home buyer remorse. It says nearly half of homeowners say ownership stresses them out. While homeownership provides a level of security, it's also a source of stress for many Americans, they say, and the most expensive asset they'll ever own. So people have to be aware this will be one of the most expensive assets, especially nowadays with the prices increasing, that you'll ever own. So you want to try to do your best prior to purchasing to lay out a few key details in regards to purchasing a property, right? David said, I've had some. I think the ones that bought during the pandemic seem to have the more regret. Exactly. And that's what I was reading in these articles. The ones who recently bought, those are also the ones that are trying to sell their property now. And those are the ones that are delisting. So we're kind of going to go pair this hand in hand in regards to that conversation. That's why I wanted to have this conversation around home buyers remorse, and also anybody who's experienced this, they are looking to list right now. And I'm seeing this trending throughout the TikTok algorithm as well. And it might be just because I'm on the real estate side of it, but a lot of recent home buyers who bought in 2021, 2022, even 2020, 2020, 2021, 2022, all the way to this to 2024, even recent possibly 2025, they're having this kind of home buyer remorse, especially the ones that bought at the peak of 2022, 2023. They're having a home buyer remorse, feeling like, oh, did I overpay for this product, right? And of course, if we're seeing like with us seeing some softening or some correcting, balancing out, prices staying steady, prices going down a little bit, some people feel like, oh, did I step out too early to buy an asset that is overvalued and now it's coming down? And so that, and then also those expenses, those maintenances that people had to uptake that they didn't think about the first time, that they didn't think about when they were purchasing real estate. So hey, what's going on, Croy? How you doing? Clark, how are you? Hello, everyone. I'm pretty good. Hopefully, I meant to tell everybody, sorry, as we have this conversation, hopefully you guys had a wonderful holiday. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, you were able to celebrate it with any family members, any friends, or however you celebrate it. So yes, I'm doing good. How are you doing? Thanks for asking. I appreciate it. So yeah, we're just talking about if you ever had any home buyer remorse when you purchased a property as a home buyer. So Corey, if you've experienced that, let us know as well. Or if you know anyone who has experienced it, any friends or whatever. It says 40% of homeowners spend a third of more of their income on housing costs. It says what's fueling the stress plaguing some homeowners? One major fact can be the cost of a mortgage. Widely cited rule of homeownership suggests that your mortgage expenses, including mortgage, insurance, and utility costs, shouldn't exceed more than 30% of your income. And we do know that some people are just their mortgage, let alone outside of any additional expensive utilities and maintenance, upkeep, and all those things, food, gas, car notes, whatever else you might have on top of your mortgage, might exceed their that 30%. I'm knowing some people where the mortgage is exceeding about 45%. Some might even be pushed up to the 50% of their debt to income ratio. So a lot of people are exceeding that percentage when typically they say it should be no more than about 30% to get that stress level down, right? As far as purchasing your home. He said, Corey said, just get back from Orlando. Okay. So hopefully the weather was great down in Orlando, Florida. I didn't experience any type of rain because I think somebody that I know down there said they had experienced some rain down there. So hopefully you had a good time, nice and sunny down there. I'm like, you all over, Corey, you all over. Hey, what's going on, Donna? Thanks for joining the conversation. Appreciate you guys. Sorry I don't have my normal setup. As I said earlier, I'm currently visiting family. So I don't have my normal setup, but I will be back soon, so we can look at everything on screen and get it back to our normal setup. So outside of that, when it comes to the homeowner, the expenses, like we said, Gen Z homeowners are 27% more likely to experience that buyer's remorse. It says among all generations surveyed, about 35% of respondents say they've experienced some type of degree of that home buyer remorse. And so we're going to now skip over to a few of the key things that they broke down in regards. Give me 1 second. Sorry, you guys. Did I delete it off? No, here it is. A few of those key things. They said the top 16 reasons home buyers have buyer's remorse. So if anybody that's watching now or on a replay, if you had any home buyer's remorse, know someone that has home buyer remorse, let us know in the chat and let us know how did you possibly overcome it, or are you doing what some of these people that are experiencing this home buyer remorse are trying to do, which now they are trying to sell their property, and that's where we're seeing some of those delistings happening. Corey said, I'm from Florida. I have lots of family. Okay. So you went back to see your family in Florida. So it says, let's look at the top 16 home reasons, and we'll get into it. Hey, what's going on, Lang? Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Happy Sunday, everybody. All right. So number one reason, says the number one reason post-purchase regret, they said expressed by 16% of recent home buyers was the purchase home requires. I don't know if I'm reading that right. Hey, Debbie, thanks for stopping over at the channel. Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming by tonight. Like I said earlier, we don't have our normal setup over here. I'm out of town visiting family, so we're making our best. We're doing our best on this iPad. We can't share all the screens and do all those fancy things that we would love to, but we're going to make it work and have great conversation with anybody who's joining us or watching the replay. I appreciate you guys joining. Again, we're talking about home buyer remorse, and then we'll swing over to the delistings happening. So they said the number one regret was the purchase home requires more maintenance than anticipated, involving both time and money. So one of the number one regrets that most home buyers said as far as buyer remorse was the maintenance of the home, the anticipated maintenance. They didn't realize that if a water heater broke, they were going to have to repair it. They didn't realize how much it might cost. They didn't realize if an HVAC breaks, they didn't realize how much that might cost. They might not know who to call, who to fix it. All those repairs that most people, when you're renting, you just call a maintenance guy, your landlord, other people to kind of fix those things. People, that is one thing that they didn't anticipate, and they regret not being able to have the money for it, and also be able to, if they try to fix it by themselves, have the time to do so, I guess. Number two regret they expressed by 15% of all buyers involve spending more of household items than anticipated. So the number two regret was about spending more on household items. So buying furniture, beds, any type of household items, supplies in regards to cleaning supplies, food. We all need food to eat, right? So those type of things, they didn't kind of factor that into their daily structural bills. So it's also great to create a budget. I tell people, try to create a budget if you can. I know most of us don't live on budgets. Because we kind of, our money comes in, we calculate it in our heads, we spend it accordingly because we have different bills to kind of get through at the end of the month. But if we start creating budgets, we can kind of see where the money's going, and then be able to hopefully lower, like, I guess, I don't want to say lower, but we can actually be able to cut certain things out that we might not need that we think we need. Debbie said, people always forget regular and structural repairs when buying, for sure. Exactly, they definitely do. So that was the number one regret, people forgetting about those things. The number three regret is savings account is empty. So this says 14% of people regret that after they purchase a home, that any type of money they saved up, it goes empty once they finish paying the down payment, any closing costs, any extra expenses. If they bought the home and the seller wasn't willing to do certain repairs, and they're going in there, maybe they're renovating, pulling up carpet, putting down laminate hardwood flooring, some type of flooring, painting walls, all those things that once. And I know, so my little sister, her and her husband just recently sold their house in Jersey. They had a house that they sold, and they bought a condo in cash. And they're actually taking some of the rest of the money to actually repair their kitchen. So that's an expense in which they are um, paying on, right? And so I don't know where their bank account's going to be after that, their savings account. I don't know. All I know is that's what she told me. So that's an expense that if the seller wasn't willing to do, you might have to go in and do so. And it might leave you possibly savings wise less than you wish for, or also empty. It says number 4 is the cost of ownership is higher than expected, 11% down from 16%. So 16% initially said this, but now it's 11% now that says the cost of ownership is higher than expected. So that's just like the things as far as over the years. We know taxes have risen. We know home insurance has risen. And the reason why some of the home insurance rises is because of like some of those replacement costs. So if you bought your house, let's say in 1950, 1960, and nowadays that house, to replace those things or bring it up to standards, those houses are going for $400,000, $500,000, and you built a house for $50,000 so many years ago. It's going to cost, if anything was to happen to that house, insurance-wise, to repair those things, bring it up to cost, and replace everything. So sometimes your home insurance will go up because of those things as well. HOAs are going up because of changes in regards to any unexpected issues, reserve funds. If you have a pool, if you have a tennis court, if you have other like little things that have to be maintained, because those companies went up in prices. So now your HOA is going up to satisfy that, to make sure they have a proper reserve. Some HOAs don't have proper reserves. They should have reserves in place, but that's what typically sometimes happen. Debbie said, oh, did I miss one? Okay. I was able to replace my 10% down payment in my savings within a year, but my home was on the less expensive side. And see, that's perfect, Debbie, being able to replace that savings, because nowadays, like I tell people, and it's becoming harder. That's why the whole thing of Gen Zers having this home buyer remorse, or Gen Zers just trying to buy, millennials trying to buy, anyone in this market outside of somebody that might be trading in the house to downsize as possible, get enough money to swing some cash into the new purchase. Maybe was able to save for a lot, had some investments here and there, was able to pull money out, get things. It's getting very hard to be able to save. Even if you're currently renting right now and you want to ultimately own in the future, right? It's getting very hard to save because prices have risen. And so once your paycheck comes home, you can barely afford to put anything really aside to save in order to get to that level to actually see your expenses exceed a certain amount. So that's a blessing, Debbie, being able to replace that 10% down payment and your savings within a year. Because I know when I talk to recent people that want to buy, a lot of it is that they're like, I can't save. Some of them have moved back home with their parents to be able to possibly do it. That's a blessing to have parents that will allow you to come back in the house without you having to pay anything to them, and you're able to save up. Some people are also, getting apartments or things with roommates, maybe renting by room, some type of way to kind of level out that so much of the money kind of bleeding out after they get paid, and being able to make some savings, because as we know, there was a study done where they said a lot of Americans don't really have anything in savings. So if we were to all of a sudden everybody lost their job tomorrow, how many people would be able to financially support themselves? Because we're not, it's harder to save nowadays. So we got to really put ourselves on a strict, I guess you could say, diet, a savings diet, you guys. It says number 6, it says the home not in expected condition. So the number 6 reason, 9% of people said the home wasn't in the condition that they expected. Again, most people don't realize it, whether you buy a resale home or a new construction, things can break over time. Things might not be what they seem, right? Because like I always tell people that I work with, any buyers, I say, hey, we can go inside this house. You can have a home inspection done. However, we can't go and start banging walls open. We can't start pulling up floors. We can't pull cabinets behind, from off the wall and do all these crazy things because it's not your home. You are going inside, you're doing a home inspection. The home inspector is just seeing everything visible by eye. They're labeling things out. Then they tell you to, hey, go and seek a licensed contractor or qualified, plumber, or different things like that to further investigate any problems that they may have possibly saw. However, if you decide once you buy the house that you want to then renovate it because it's not to your liking, and you find additional things that the seller might not have already known about, these are those unexpected things that are not in the condition that you expected when you purchased the home. So, you got to think about little small things. I know most people, we're excited, especially when you're trying to purchase a home. You're excited to purchase the home. This is your dream home, possibly. You're just so happy to finally find a place that you can call home. And so you're not really looking at those small little things, or sitting down, creating those budgets or calculating things accordingly. So we have to shift our mindset when purchasing a home. Yes, it's great to have the mindset of this is my forever home and this is the home I want to be in. But let's shift the mindset and create it almost like we're buying. It's almost like a business thing. And I don't want to say a business, like I don't want to say an investment because people are like, oh, it's an investment. I would say treat it almost like if you're making a business transaction, right? Read the contracts accordingly, understand what you're signing, and then also sit back and think about those little small things. Are we going to think about everything? No, but we can think about small things, ask certain questions. Like if you guys don't know, recently I was working with and I'm still working with this buyer. We he purchased he purchased the home. Well, not purchased, sorry. He was under contract with a home. And I told him, let's make sure you get a radon test. I'm asking all my buyers nowadays to get a radon test done because if you guys don't know, of course, radon comes from the ground, right? The soil, the rocks, the break, and all that stuff, and it creates radon, which is an odorless, invisible gas that creeps up out of the earth per se, and when you're in a house, it can creep through any cracks or any things that's the cracks in the ground or underneath your crawl space or in the slab or whatever, and it can create that gas in the house. And because the house is four walls, right? It's not open space. Gas gets stuck in the house, and so he did a radon test and found that the radon levels were high. So it's just those small little things that you want to kind of do. And with that being said, mitigation was going to be very costly, and that wasn't something that he wanted to deal with going forward, to mitigate it at a higher expense. And we just wanted to double back to get that done because unfortunately that particular seller, the listing agent had let me know that they were dealing with a very aggressive form of cancer. And if you guys don't know, radon can lead to possible lung cancer or cancers. And so we want to be very cautious about how we purchase things, especially nowadays, because these purchases are big purchases, right? Debbie said, I knew a guy who had termites just a couple of years after moving into a new build. The exterminator found that the builder had buried excess building materials, including wood, near the outer walls. Yeah, and I've been seeing that recently too, Debbie, in regards to people buying new construction homes and people finding like mold around the tub, or when they pull up the countertops, they see a bunch of like uh, Pepsi cans or like all this excessive wood or different type of scraps from when they were building the home. And so people are like, oh, I'm getting a new construction, but it's small little things that I always tell people, even if you're getting new construction, still try to get an inspector out there. If you can possibly get one to go through all the phases in the new construction build, from them, grading that land, pouring that cement, that slab if it's on one, to that. So that's like the pour, like the pouring stages. Then you want to go to like the drywall staging, so that way you can see how they're putting electrical in, the plumbing in, all those different things inside the wall, see if they're doing it correctly. Because just because they're new construction, I always tell people, we got to remember houses are being built by humans. As human beings, we forget things, we make mistakes. We're not perfect, right? So nothing's going to be perfect. And I think sometimes people get into the sense of seeing something pretty because we have been programmed, unfortunately, and that's throughout the world, right? To look at pretty stuff and our eyes are captivated and we want it because it's pretty, right? That's why when you go in a grocery store, you see pretty fruits in a certain color, the way they put stuff out. You see that they dye the salmon pink because salmon is not pink, or salmon, however you guys say it. It's everything to attract the eye, to make it pretty, that you don't do further investigation. And so that's why I tell people, just look a little further, look a little further. Corey said, wow, that's frightening. I would never think to check for that. Yes, like Debbie said, that the Termites, if you guys don't know, Georgia is one of the states that's high with termites as well. Florida is the #1 state. Georgia used to be #2, but I think we might have fell down the list a little bit, but we're in that top 5 in the state for termites. So you want to kind of look for the termites, any burrows happening, you know, and just be very cautious. That's what I can say. Lang said, wow, crazy. Yes. It's crazy, you guys. So those are some unexpected things that could pop up. So number 7 was I rushed into decision. So some people had home buyers remorse because they feel like they just rushed into it. So that's what we mean as far as like rushing into things, right? Link said that's lazy. What do you mean? That's lazy or that's crazy? I don't know. um Number 8, people said the house is too small. So their number 8 reason was the house is too small. And this is something else that I had mentioned before on one of these lives, because nowadays, right, we're prone to bigger, more spaces, right? Especially after the pandemic, people want their own space because everybody was in the house. They felt like after a while they didn't feel like being around each other no more. They were used to being go out, be free. If they had anything happen between their spouse, their kids, their sisters, their siblings, whatever, or sisters, brothers, siblings, and so people kind of want more space. But back in the day, houses were smaller in size, right? We had smaller rooms, smaller closet space, narrow hallways, very smaller type of built homes. And nowadays, everybody want bigger homes. But sometimes I tell people, especially new buyers, buyers that want to get into the market to possibly purchase, it's okay to buy a smaller home, start somewhere and then build up, especially if you're by yourself. Why do you need a 4,000, 5,000 square foot house if you're by yourself? You know, especially if it's your first home, you want to start somewhere and you want to build up over time, right? You want to be able to get in. But you know, nowadays, like they said, one of their stuff was regrets was the house was too small. So we're living in HGTV, big house, mini mega mansions, or mini mansions as they build up in the 2000 early 2000s. Number 9, it says paid too much. So people are regretting that during the pandemic period they paid too much money for the house. So we kind of talked about that earlier. Number 10, need more inspections. We kind of talked about that a little bit too, hinting to something that even Debbie's friend went through. Number 11, need more contingencies. So 8% of the people said they wanted more contingencies in their deal, and they felt they're a little remorse because they didn't get more contingencies. So a contingency could be, a due diligence is really a contingency as well. Most people probably don't think of it in that way, where you might need more time for your due diligence, right? My current client that I'm working with, we had put an offer in. We asked for 14 days due diligence. The listing agent wanted 7, and I said, no, we don't want to do 7, right? Because due diligence typically, and it might work different in other states, but in Georgia, we go by calendar days. So what is going by calendar days, the weekends also count. So if we need to get something done or looked at, and certain professionals don't work on the weekends, we're missing out on days. You can put in a contract, 7 days, but only business days. However, most people don't want to really acknowledge those 7 just business days. So that's why I like to stretch it out so it can combine, so it's enough time. So we negotiated on that, and we took it. She wanted us to go to 7. We went from 14 to 10, so we still had a sufficient amount of time. But I typically, especially in this new market that we're in now, this correcting market, we're shifting with the prices. It's no need to rush. Take your time. And no one should ever rush. Even in a fast-paced market, even if you want something real bad, don't rush. Take your time. This is a big purchase. Lang said, lazy for the builder to bury the materials inside of disposing it properly. Yeah, you'd be surprised. It's a lot. See, the problem is that it's not, when people are building these new constructions, it's not the builder per se, it's subcontractors. So the builder subs out subcontractors, and then those people are typically building. So they don't really have, I guess they don't really have the loyalty. I don't want to say loyalty, but I don't know how to really say it. They don't really care. They're just there to get the work done, to accomplish the job, do what the builder had laid out as far as those floor plans, get everything done in and out, and they don't care. So they feel like they're working long hours. It's very laborious, and it sucks that it's done like that. But I think a lot of people will probably be surprised, especially these newer construction homes, that if you did pull back some of your countertops, it probably had debris inside them. You probably be very surprised. Debbie said, I'm perfectly happy with my tiny 500 square foot house. Oh, wow. So you and MH08, you guys both have smaller houses. I love it. I love it. Um, I grew up in my mom had, I don't know how many square feet her house was, but it was up in North. It's called, we call them row homes. It was a row home. People call them townhomes down south, but we call them row homes. And it was upstairs, downstairs. We had a basement, and I feel like it might have been a good, maybe I'm gonna say 1,200 square feet, but it was a 3 bedroom house. It was a 3 bedroom house, one full bathroom. Like, my mom didn't have a primary bathroom, like an ensuite off of her primary room, and her primary room wasn't like huge like how people's rooms are now. And the bedrooms were, smaller size as far as that, and we had one bathroom. We had one bathroom. And then in my grandma's house that I also lived in as well, it was 4 bedrooms, a basement as well, 4 bedrooms, and 2 bathrooms, one general bathroom. And then my grandma's primary room did have a ensuite bathroom where she had a stand-up shower. And I feel like that square footage wise, and I could be wrong, and I feel like that might have been about, that might have been like 1,700, 1,900 square feet. So yeah, so it's not like, I didn't live in big houses and big old things. Like my cousin, he has a big house, but I didn't grow up in a big house, and I was perfectly fine in that small house, being around, my family and my siblings, and us at my mom's house getting on, and she was yelling at us as we were taking the covers off the bed, the comforters, and sliding down the steps. And at the time, she had runners in the living room, and she also had like the plastic on the couch. I don't know if you guys grew up with parents putting plastic on the couch to kind of reserve the fabric, and then had runners to reserve her carpet. So we would have to walk on the runners, and we had to sit on the plastic couches. And oh man, in the summertime, laying on that plastic couch, I would be stuck to it when I try to get my whole face. I'm like, Lord, my face is stuck to this plastic couch. Debbie said, if you were here in DC Metro, I hire you to sell my house. Oh, thank you, Debbie. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Um, Hey, what's going on, Miss H? How you doing? How you doing? Thanks for stopping by. And again, if you guys are just tuning in, hopefully you had a wonderful holiday, a wonderful Thanksgiving if you do celebrate it, and we're able to spend some time with family or friends. David laughing, yeah, yeah, David. I'm like, if only people knew about growing up back in the day. Smaller houses, more confined spaces, sticking to couches and taking sheets, going down the stairs. And then also we would play like me and my siblings, we would do like this thing called haunted house, and we would turn the lights off in the room, and we would put like all these different things on the floor. And then you would come in, and you would be like trying to find one of us like hiding somewhere in the room. And but you'd be stepping on stuff. You'd be like, you'd be stepping on Legos, all this stuff. I don't know what we were doing. We were just doing stuff. So number 11 was the contingencies. Also inside that contingency, you can have like your finance contingency, your appraisal contingency, putting those in place because people were, allowing for those appraisal gaps and paying that difference. So you want to put that contingency in place. You might have an escalation clause in place, but you also want to stop it at a certain, thing, a kick out clause in place, different things. So it's a lot of different clauses, contingencies, everything you could have put in place. Number 12, they said didn't consider traffic, noise, etc. So some people moved into areas and they didn't realize how noisy it was. They didn't realize how much traffic there were going to be. Some people might not also have realized that maybe in the future there was some type of eminent domain going on in regards to the county possibly expanding the road or putting some type of power lines in or different easements from the different things. So and sometimes you can find that information by going to your comprehensive plan, which your county has in place. Typically, those plans are about 20 to 50 years out that they kind of lay everything out in regards to infrastructure in the area and what's possibly could be happening going forward. And sometimes it's kind of hard to find all of it, but that's one way you can find it. And what I like to do, which most people did, and this is another reason to hear, they said don't like their neighbors. What I like to do is I tell the buyers, if possible, go next door, knock on your neighbor's door. We did that with this one buyer I was working with. It was because she was buying a townhouse, right? She's buying a townhouse, and she was like, oh, and it was a bunch of bushes, like bushes to the when you come out the door, it was to the left of her, it was bushes, and right next to it was the other townhouse because of course they're placed together down in Georgia. And she was like, oh, those bushes right there, I would trim it, I would probably cut it all down. And I was like, well, I think this is something that you possibly share with your neighbors. So maybe we should knock on the neighbor's door. We can get a feel of who the neighbor is, what your neighbors could possibly be like, and then also let her know that that's something you were thinking about doing. So we knocked on the door. The neighbor, her name was Audrey. I think her name was Audrey. And Audrey was cool, but Audrey was like, you will not cut those bushes down. And my dog is in here and everything. I was like, oh. And so she was like, oh, do I want to live next to Audrey? I was like, so yeah, you might want to get a little gist of what your neighbors could possibly be like. And we all know people move, and we also know that some properties might be investment owned. So you might just have renters as neighbors. So you just want to see who possibly lives next door to you. If there are investment properties next door to you, if it's investment, that means there might be possible renters coming and going, to try to get a feel of what the neighborhood could possibly be. And of course, we don't know what the future will hold as far as people buying or selling in that neighborhood, but you can kind of see where it's at that moment. So that's the only, I guess, downfall about, trying to really figure out your neighbors, is that people do come and go. Number 13, it says too long of a commute. So some people bought homes probably during the midst of the pandemic, further away, just so they could be able to buy something more affordable that they felt was in their budget, and they were able to at the time work remotely from home. And now they have to go back into the office, so they're finding that, oh, this is an hour and a half away, 2 hours away, hours away, which they knew in the beginning, but I guess they felt like they were going to be working from home. So that was number 13. Number 15 is, which is so funny, because before they said the house was too small, now 6% people said the house is too big. So some people feel like they overly purchased too much house for one person. And then number 16, we already talked about it, said they don't like the neighbors. So that was on there twice. They don't like the neighbors and they don't like the neighborhood. So those are the top 16 reasons why these recent home buyers have home buyer remorse. And now we're going to switch over to these recent home buyers that have this remorse are now possibly trying to sell their house. And with them trying to sell their house, a lot of them have realized that they can't really get out of it, or can't make what they want on it, or they might have a lower mortgage rate. So with the lower mortgage rate being 2%, 3%, and they're trying to buy another house at the prices now, they're like, oh, this is unaffordable mortgage wise. So some people are delisting their houses due to these situations. So it says, this is a Redfin article. It says delistings jump from 28% as sellers pull homes off market rather than settle for lower prices. And so it says nearly 85,000 U.S. sellers took their homes off the market in September, 28% from year over year. From a year earlier, and the highest level for the month in 8 years. It says this is according to Redfin, as we mentioned. It says for the analysts, a home is considered delisted if it went off the market for more than 31 days without selling or going under contract as pending or contingent. So if it's off the market for 31 days, they consider it, according to Redfin and their analysts, as delisted. However, one little thing that they do I know in Georgia, this is what they do, which is, I tell people, got to be aware of this. So if you're working as a buyer client, if you're working with a realtor in Georgia, right, ask them to go inside the MLS and truly see the history of how long the house has been on the market. Because in Georgia, particularly with Zillow, after 90 days, if someone takes the property off of the MLS and they leave it off for 90 days, when they relist it, it comes up as a whole new listing, and you cannot see the previous listing price. So typically most people will pull it, and then on the 91st day, they'll put it back, because Zillow will give you a whole new page, a Zillow page, and they'll put it there, and it'll make it seem as if the house had never been listed on the market. It's a trick that these realtors be doing. I'll be like, so I don't know if it's in every state. I just know in Georgia, that's a trick that they be doing. So let me know if you've experienced that in your state, if you guys heard of that trick, but they do that in Georgia. It says a listing is considered stale if at least 60 days have elapsed from the home's original listing price. So they consider it stale after 60 days. And it says a home is considered at risk of selling at loss if it was originally listed for more than 10% above the seller's original purchase price. So they're saying any sellers who bought the home previously and then they listed 10% above the purchase price, So this is really targeting, because when I read this whole article, it's really targeting people who bought between 2020 and 2024. So it's really more targeting these type of people, because these are most of the ones that, about half of them are the people who delisted on the market. So they're saying that those people who bought within that time frame, if they bought for 350 and they listed it 10% more than that 350 to try to sell it in this current market, they were actually losing more money at the end, because they were kind of basically pricing too high and then chasing the market down and losing money. All right, Miss H said, when a homeowner has a lower interest rate now and want to buy another home, but the rate will be higher than what they currently have, is there a way to take their current rate to the other home? So you can't take that homeowner's rate to the other home. However, excuse me, if a buyer wants to come in, they can possibly assume it if it's a VA or FHA mortgage. Just have to make sure the lender is allowing for that assumability. So the buyer could possibly assume that particular home seller's rate. But currently, as far as I know, and I could be wrong, and a lender probably will give you more details around this, but you cannot currently take as a seller, if I'm reading your question right, you as a seller cannot take, you as the homeowner or the seller cannot take your interest rate over to another property that you're trying to buy. That would be great if that happened. I think that's what they were trying to do with that portable mortgage suggestion that they were talking about. I think in California is something about, I don't know, I heard something before about something in California that's similar, where they can take something from some of these people that sell their homes. It's something in California around that. California has a law, some type of law, or not law, some type, I don't know if it's a law or a rule, because I'm not in California, where you can kind of shift it over. So let me see. It says delistings have been rising. So they said delistings have been rising for a year and a half. They're comparing September from last year to September this year. It says year over year from 2024, growth in delistings have peaking at 39% in June 2025. They also surged in 2022 when mortgage rates rose from, oh crap, this always does it. Sorry, y'all. My thing always does this when I'm on my iPad. I don't know why it does this. There we go. Sorry about that. Oh, are we back? All right. I don't know why my computer, like my iPad, does it when I'm on this. This is why when it's trying to get on the laptop, but it's acting funny. All right, so let's see. Sorry about that. What say? Miss H says, sorry, QQ. What will a bridge loan do? So a bridge loan is like, it's a type of it's like a short-term financing loan, and sometimes people will use that for to like bridge the gap as far as like buying a home, selling a home, and buying another home, almost like a sense of trying to get some type of cash flow out in order to purchase the next home while the trailing property is trying to sell. So that's typically what a bridge loan does. To get more into the ins and outs of it, of course, I would tell you to talk more with a lender who does the bridge loans. But as far as the small little bit that I know about the bridge loan is that people use it as a sense of being able to purchase another home while they're trying to sell a home and be able to have some cash to do so for that immediate cash flow. All right, let me get back to the article. Sorry about that, and sorry about my iPad shifting, you guys. I apologize. We doing our best. We doing our best. All right, so the delistings, it says surge and stale listings was 7 and 10. So it says 70% of U.S. homes listings were stale in September, meaning they had been on the market for at least 60 days. So they're classifying it as different terminologies. They're saying if the listings had been there for 60 days, they're just calling it stale without going under contract. So that doesn't mean, so if the house had went under contract in 30 days and then went back on the market, they're not considering it stale. They're considering it stale only if it's set for 60 days and no one ever put anything like an offer in. No problem. No problem, Ms. H. Hopefully I helped you with some, with the information at least that I know. And then they're saying, taking it one step further, the typical home that was listed in September had been on the market for 100 days. So it depends on where you're at. I know that there are some houses down in my market that have been sitting on the market for 2 years. People have been sitting on the market for 3 years, pulling it off, putting it back on, pulling it off. and now some sitting on for 100 days, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. So it just depends on your market. Some people's markets are different. Um, but yeah, it says slow demand listings are going stale because of slow home buying demand. Would-be buyers are sidelined by high mortgage rates, high home prices, and widespread academic yeah, academic, sorry, uncertainty. So we all know people, some Americans are losing their jobs. It's harder to find a job right now. So that uncertainty in the economy is putting people on the sidelines. They want to purchase, however, they don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So they're being more hesitant. But I also said in this time period with this hesitation, we should be more strategic in the sense of sit down, create a budget, and understand when you talk to the lender and have these questions. This is actually the perfect time, honestly, if you are trying to buy real estate, to actually sit down and make a plan, because you have so much time, you have so much space, you can explore, you can actually go out, you can look at several houses, you can sit down, you can talk to the lender more in depth, you can talk to the realtor more in depth, you can create a budget, you can possibly get a financier, whether it be a coach or somebody to help you with the budgeting, so you can lay everything out according to where you're at now, and then possibly purchase a house that makes sense where you could be in line going forward, instead of just rushing, right? You have that space and that time now to actually slow down and actually be able to plan accordingly. So maybe look at it in a different sense of slow down, plan accordingly, right? All right, let's go to, so this is what some of what I was seeing as well. And I talked to my colleague about this, about the homes that I'm currently seeing down in Georgia as far as currently listed on the market and what people are doing as far as delisting. So currently what I'm seeing listed on the market. Oh, thank you, David. Yes, everybody, please hit that like button, please. Thank you. I appreciate David for saying that. And if you're new to the channel, if you came over here because because Debbie and Christina gave me a shout out for people to come over and join us on the live tonight. If you guys are new over here, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts. Like I said, we're somewhere right now in regards to the camera, but we'll get back to where we usually go to. So yes, please subscribe if you guys can. I appreciate it. Yes, David, please subscribe to the channel. And then also, if you guys can go over, if you haven't subscribed to David Matney's channel, subscribe to David Matney's channel. He is a realtor in Omaha, Nebraska. It has great interviews, great videos, great information. He comes live every Tuesday, 8 p.m., which is my time, Eastern time. So definitely go check him out. And of course, check out Christina Smallhorn. Like I said, she has her YouTube channel. She's way bigger than me, so I'm pretty sure you guys know her already. But she is wonderful as well. Jen Sylvester, Jackie Baker, Joe Pareca, Carrie as well, and DC, all wonderful people giving great information. So definitely check all their channels out. Thank you, David, again. So what we're seeing as far as houses currently in the market in the metropolitan area of Georgia, what I'm noticing going out with these buyers is I'm seeing institutional investors are the ones that are selling down where we're at, because we had a load of them buy. So they're reorganizing their portfolios. They're liquidating certain assets as far as properties. So we're seeing those assets being popped up on the market and actually bringing down prices and trying to strip some of that equity from recent home buyers. We're also seeing, if we're not seeing that, we're seeing people who recently bought, which this article talks about, between 2020 and 2024, possibly more of the 2022 to 2024, and they're trying to sell their home because they feel like they made a very erratic type of decision. Didn't think about it through, didn't realize the maintenance, didn't realize the cost, didn't realize property taxes could possibly go up, insurance can go up, HOAs can go up. So now they're trying to sell to get out of their homes. However, because the market has now stabilized, and it's kind of shifting to correct, and some prices are softening and they're going down, most of these people cannot afford to get out of their homes, so they have to pull off the market, because if not, they would be literally bringing money to the closing table, and some of them are already underwater. So we're seeing that. We're also seeing some people who might have second or third homes outside of just regular investors, because normal people that are not investors might have a vacation home, might have an additional home. Maybe their parents passed away, maybe a sibling passed away. They had other homes and they were just keeping it in the family. We're seeing some people kind of liquidate those assets as well. And then we're seeing, what else are we seeing? It's just a lot of different nuances to the selling. we're not really seeing people that have no mortgages. I'm not really seeing them sell. People who don't need to sell, they're not selling. So more of these people that are delisting, they're testing the market. They're trying to see what they can get, and then they're pulling it off. And the institutional investors down our way, they're just staying on the market and they're just slashing prices. They're slashing. So Miss H said, when homes sitting on the market so long, will it be for too high of a price or the location or needing update that people don't want to buy? This market seems hard to sell for lots of reasons. So yeah, so let me read it again. Will it be too high for price or yeah? So sometimes it could be that the price is too high. So with the one client that I'm working with, we were analyzing prices today because he went to see a house the other day, and we were analyzing prices, and basically we were just trying to make it make sense. The house is listed higher than what the area is calling for now. The house is at 415. The last house that sold when we did the comparable analysis and digging into the data sold for $399, $990. Similar comparable as far as specs with bedrooms, baths, also acreage and all that stuff. And then we saw another house sell down the street for 330, and they also within like the last 6 months. And so houses that are over there that are currently listed for sale that are above 400,000, they're not moving, so they're staying longer on the market. So I told him, I said, if this is something that you're interested in possibly putting an offer with going forward, we're not going to put no 415 in. We're not going to even go at 400. And I know some people as a realtor, and I know some of my realtor colleagues get mad at me, because I don't want people to put in for more than what it's worth, right? We want to look at the way this market is shifting. We want to do stuff accordingly because we don't want you going in underwater. Also, we don't even know if it'll appraise above that. It shouldn't appraise above that, but we don't know what the appraiser would do. I don't know. And because they can always lean out in other areas and grab other data to make it appraise. And so with that being the case, we want to go in accordingly as we know that the market is shifting. Because again, everybody's market is different. Everybody's neighborhood is different. Some places the market might be appreciating. Where we're at in this market, in this county, in this city, in this particular area, we're seeing depreciation. So we're shifting accordingly, right? So we're not going to buy above appreciation. And I know like I said, some of my realtor colleagues get mad at me when I do all this data and I dig deep into it because they want me to allow somebody to purchase higher because they're like, well, you're messing up, the equity for other homeowners, or you messing up this, you messing up. I tell people, let me tell you one thing, okay? Most of the homeowners who bought a long time ago, their equity's not going nowhere. Even with people yelling, oh, it's going to be a crash and all this stuff, even if a crash was to happen, from just looking at the data, which I don't see a deep crash happening, even if it went down 50% of the price, people who bought years ago, 50% of the price would still put them back to where they should be at today anyway. Because in some markets, particularly in where I'm at, houses went up 100%, 200%, 300%. So even 50%, if it went up 300%, they're still at 250%. Even if it went up 100%, they're still at 50%. So because of that happening, even if the prices adjust, if a house was supposed to be originally maybe 199 in 2019, and we do see a 50% crash, but the house is now $500,000, those people who bought long ago, you're still gonna have some equity in your house. So I don't look at it that way. I'm looking at the way the market is going. I'm looking at the way things are trending, and I'm not allowing people to buy higher than what it's supposed to be. And it's not about not wanting people to have equity in their property, but it's about making sense, even as a seller, listing it accordingly, making sense to the market, so we're not chasing the market and you're not getting less. And as a buyer, where you're buying where it makes sense to the market, where you're not buying something at the high and then can't be able to get out of it if you need to sell in a couple of years because you bought too high. Just like any other person, even if you buy stocks, you buy low, you sell high. Just like real estate, people saw that the market started trending upward during this pandemic and this inflationary equity that happened. And people who bought their house in 2015, even 2015, 2017, they sold it because they're like, shoot, I'm getting out of here. I got some money. I'm about to go purchase something else, something a little more reasonable, made sense for them. And they did so, right? They bought low at the time, even if they thought it was high at the time, and they sold high before the market started trending down, right? So that's just my stuff. So I think I went off. I think I went off the on a tangent. Sorry, Miss H. Or location. Some people do buy for location. in regards to maybe the school district, maybe they're closer to their job, maybe there's more groceries around, maybe more accessibility to a gym, a doctor, different things like that. I do know some people that are a little older that want to be closer to hospitals, to doctors and stuff, so they buy, to be close in those areas where their physicians are at. The market seems hard to sell for lots of reasons. Yes, the market is definitely hard to sell for lots of reasons right now. So I tell people, if you're going to sell, just make sure you understand the market. And I had this conversation the other day with a young lady, because me and a colleague of mine, we are actually doing a seminar. I should say not seminar, a webinar. And I meant to get the link. Sorry, we're doing a webinar this Saturday, 11 a.m. Anyone can join. It's a webinar. Even though, of course, we do real estate currently in Georgia, anyone can join. But it's just like talking about the market, how if you are trying to sell, if you know somebody trying to sell in the future, that they should understand the market, right? Have a conversation with a realtor. It's not. I think some people are scared to go have conversation with realtors because they feel like, oh, they're going to sell me into trying to sell my house or try to buy something. It's like, no, if you talk with a real a realtor who cares about real estate and really wants to give you the information and the education and knowledge, they're not going to try to sell you anything. They're going to literally have like, if you talk to me in the street somewhere, or even like we're talking on this live now, I love having a conversation about real estate. If you can ask my dad, you can ask anybody when they talk about it, and I'm not trying to sell nobody to do real estate. I'm like, I just love having conversations about it to inform people. But yeah, but we're having that seminar. I'm gonna try to see. Do I have the link here? If anybody knows somebody that wants to join, I don't have the link. I'm gonna put it up at the end. Hopefully, if you guys stay around, you can grab the link. If not, it'll also be in the caption after this video is over. So if somebody's watching the replay and you want to come in on board, register, get some information, have conversations. We'll have a conversation about if you are trying to sell your house, or if you relisted your house, delisted your house, you want to sell it next year or future years, or know somebody. We'll be having a webinar around that. Miss H says, some homes show nice on the outside till you look inside and it needs work. Who wants to buy? Exactly, Miss H. Some, and I always get on some of my colleagues in regards to them taking these pictures. They take great pictures, and that's why I tell everybody that's trying to buy, even if you, now some people will be like, oh, can you go and do a virtual tour for me? And I'll go down to the house, especially if they're out of state, right? I'll go to the house, I'll do a virtual tour, and I always say, and they'll say, oh, I love it or whatever. And I'll say, okay, before I put an offer in, I suggest you come and see this in person. Just because you still can't fully see what it looks like through the camera. So there might be some things that you might have missed when we were doing this virtual tour. So, and that's what happens with some of the pictures that they put online as well. Great photography, great photographers, right? Great editing, great software, great lighting. However, when you pull up in person, maybe the front yard looks very greener than what you expected, and instead we're in the winter months, right? So you see the brown grass. Maybe you didn't realize that the rooms are smaller than they were. Maybe the rooms are bigger than you realize. Maybe the house is narrower. So it's so many things that you can't see in a picture. Of course, everyone says, nowadays most people are buying based on looking at stuff on Zillow or online, but you cannot see everything in the picture. Trust me. So definitely, like you said, Miss H, it looks one way on the outside, and then you get inside, and it needs work, whether repairs, different things. I've been in so many houses where you're like, this looks so cool on the outside, but inside you're like, oh, you see water damage here. You see the laminate LVP flooring ripping up in the corner. I'm like, well, that's horrible. You see, if some people got those Formica countertops, all those different things. You see, it's a lot. Donna said, I think all houses have problems. I agree, Donna. All houses have problems. So that's why I tell people, I know we had this conversation, but don't be scared in regards to buying a house. If you are buying a house, every house has a problem. New construction, resale houses, they all have problems. And over time, like I tell people, a house is like your body, right? If you don't take care of it, it breaks down. If you, and I have, it's some people that I know that are want to sell, but they're like, oh, I'm just going to wait, and they don't live in their house. They live in a different state. They live in different areas. And I'm like, as this house continues to sit, you might have possible plumbing problems. If no one's in the house, if the pipes burst because it's too cold, that's going to cause water damage. If your water heater busts, if any type of the core coils and the HVAC to your air conditioner heading outside for the unit to the air conditioner that sits outside with the fan blowing or whatever that connects to the HVAC for the air condition purposes. If that happens, if any electrical stuff happens, you don't know. And so a lot of people sit on assets or properties, however they want to say it, or houses, and they're not being there. So over time, things are breaking. It's like your body. You got to take care of it. You got to keep, working it. You got to, houses, we live in them. So we keep using the faucets. We keep using the gas. We keep using those type of things to keep it going, right? And then when it breaks, we fix it. Just like when our body, breaks down, we try to go to doctors or we try to do something to heal it, right? So that's how I compare it. I know that analogy might not be the best, but that's my analogy. Miss H said, yes, new homes and old homes, you just need to prepare yourself and hope it holds still till you get money to do it, to fix the problems. Exactly, Miss H, exactly. And then lastly, when you don't have a warranty saved to fix, huh? When you don't have a warranty saved to fix later. Okay, we talk about having a home warranty. Yes, home warranties are good. I always suggest it for first-time home buyers just because things do break. That's just what happens in the house. However, I do tell first-time home buyers when you do get a home warranty, it typically is a 1-year home warranty. You have to pay to renew it over time. You might want to do go and get a quote from a person prior to using a home warranty, because sometimes it might not make sense to use a home warranty. You might have to pay, the deductible might be $100, and whatever might have broke might only cost you $100 to fix. So it's like, just get the contractor to fix it for $100. There's no point to use it. So it can come in handy with like those bigger things that might be costly once you get that quote and you can compare stuff. But sometimes it might not make sense either. So you just gotta wait. Everything you gotta compare. Apples to oranges, apples to apples, green apple to red apple, vice versa, and tis for tats, I guess, if I'm saying it right. I recommend doing repairs as you are able to make them thematic. Exactly, I agree too, son of Jackson. Thanks for joining as well. Appreciate you for coming on here tonight. But yes, I agree. I definitely recommend doing those repairs. As son of Jackson said. He said, don't wait until you're ready to sell. Exactly. Don't wait till you're ready to sell. I recommend most people, I say, if you can, walk on the same way you walk on the inside of your house, walk on the outside of your house prior to trying to sell. Just to see, maybe you might need to power wash. Maybe you might see some things happening on the outside of your house. So I definitely say do that too prior to, if you are trying to sell. And I don't have the link for our webinar to actually put inside the chat. But again, it'll be below inside the caption. So if you know anybody that wants to see why their house, if they tried to sell currently, they took off, they delisted it, or they're trying to resell, they can definitely join the webinar. It'll be this Saturday, December 6th, 11 a.m. And as anyone can join, and you can leave at any time, and it's free. No problem, Debbie. Great info. Thanks, Clark. I got to bounce. Have a great week. Yes, I have to bounce too, so I appreciate you being here, Debbie. I appreciate everyone who joined tonight. Thank you again. If you haven't done already, please subscribe to the channel if you're new over here. We definitely appreciate the conversation, appreciate this real estate talk. Every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, we're over here talking real estate in some aspect, in some matter, and enjoying with a great group of people in conversation. So thank you guys for joining tonight. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video if it makes sense to you. And if you know anyone that is currently in the market to possibly sell in the future or delisted their house, the webinar link is below in the caption. And I will see you guys next Sunday. Thank you, Miss H. Have a wonderful Sunday. Take care, yo. Bye-bye.